I recently asked all of you to challenge me. The challenge was to vote on the worst possible multi-class, and it was my job to try and make something decent out of it. And you didn't disappoint. You guys gave me enough hot garbage that I couldn't do just one video. I ended up doing 4. At the time of writing, the 4th worst multi-class voted by you guys is the Druid Artificer with 44 votes. You can see why when you see that the Artificer wants intelligence and beautiful shiny armor, but then along comes this freaking wisdom hippie who doesn't want to wear armor because reasons, I guess. Maybe it's just too clean. I don't know. Not only that, they're both like children and they only want to use their toy. The Artificer needs to use like wrenches to cast spells, where the Druid uses like mistletoe and leaves and crap. So you can't be casting either class's spells at the same time. You have to be swapping out items to make it happen. Pretty awkward. So can we work around these issues, or will the build always be hot Druid droppings? Guess we're gonna find out in today's build. Let's do this. Before jumping into the build, I want to give a shout out to the amazing sponsor of this video, Obvious Mimic, and specifically their dope line of t-shirts. In fact, I'm wearing one. Check this out. Bam! It's the Eye of the Beholder barbershop shirt, one of their many. They have Hypnotherapy Mind Flayers, they have the Obvious Mimic t-shirt, and then they have a totally separate line of t-shirts that are like tourist shirts for locations in the D&D world. You got the Underdark, you got Waterdeep, and so on. The shirts are awesome and they are high quality. Sometimes you order a shirt and the quality is crap. Not in this case. I've tried it on myself and it feels great. You're gonna be able to get a bunch of discounts if you check out the link down below. Enjoy. And thank you to Obvious Mimic for sponsoring this video. Back to the build. First, let's talk armor. Druid's best armors are Studded for light, Hide for medium, and Ringmail for heavy. In addition to this, they're going to get a wooden shield which acts like any other shield. Now Ringmail and Hide armor are both capped at 14 AC, where Studded leather armor is going to be 12 plus your dexterity. So if you have 2 dexterity, Studded leather armor is going to match any armor the Druid would be able to wear, and then if you get more than that, it's going to exceed them. So Studded leather armor is going to be the choice for us. Between Studded leather armor, our shield, and as much dex as we can get, so we're going to end up with approximately 16, maybe 17 AC when all things are said and done. This tells us that we're going to want some sort of investment into dexterity, so now we know one of the stats we're going for. And we know we want wisdom for Druid, we want intelligence for Artificer, and of course we're going to want constitution, because we're likely a constitution caster, let alone we don't want to die. So the conclusion of all that is we're definitely dumping strength and charisma. We have no room for them. The next decision we need to make is, what is our primary stat? Are we going to be going primarily into Druid or primarily into Artificer? To begin answering that question, I'm first going to look at the Artificer subclasses. Why am I starting with Artificer? Well, Artificers have more of a defining subclass, meaning that your playstyle can largely not change all that much by going Druid, but for Artificers, what subclass they choose is extremely important for their whole lifespan. So that's why I'm going to be starting there, because we want to see what to build around because they're so distinct. First, we have the Alchemist. First, we have the Armor, who is normally one of the best multi-classes that you can get. Because its ability allows us to use intelligence for our attack and our defense, we can get heavy armor and we can attack with intelligence. It usually makes our multi-classes extremely stat efficient. The problem is that Druids don't let us wear the armor we want to wear. One of the best parts about going armor is you get a significant buff to your AC. But when we take Druid, it's no better than wearing our Studded leather armor and having our shield. We're gonna end up approximately at 16, 17 AC, meaning we didn't get the amazing benefit from being an armor. So in other words, Druids will say, instead of wearing this beautiful set of arcane armor, I'm gonna wear a frickin' loincloth into battle. It's no wonder intelligence is their dumb stat. Next up, we have the Artillerist, who specializes in long-range blasting. Now this is great. We are less tanky than most Artificers, so being further in the backline sounds great from the Druid's perspective. On top of that, there's some additional synergy. The cannons that the Artillerist creates need spell slots. By going into Druid, we're going to get more of those spell slots to create more of those cannons. Now, all of the cannons scale off of intelligence, but we can easily go a 3-level dip into Artillerist and be completely happy spamming out the cannons as they are. They're going to be plenty strong. Additionally, Artillerist wants to use cantrips as opposed to weapon attacks, which synergizes with the Druid wanting to be in the backline for several different reasons. One, if we go the weapon route, we have to take 5 levels to get extra attack or we're going to fall off. Reason number 2 is that if we go the cantrip route, we are naturally going to be at ranged, which is going to protect our squishy Druid selves a bit more. Reason number 3 is that if we are using cantrips, we're likely going to be picking up the infusion Enhanced Arcane Focus. This infusion is big for this multi-class because it allows us to combine our arcane foci together, where the Druid wants to use a stick, a staff, which we can have, the Artificer then infuses that staff with Artificer magic, so now it counts as both a focus for the Artificer and the Druid. That's a big deal, so we really want to do a cantrip subclass if we can. Overall, I would say Artillerist is an extremely strong candidate. It's hitting all of the notes we're looking for, but let's check out the final subclass, the Battlesmith. This is usually considered the strongest of all the Artificers, and it really is no joke. It gives you a bunch of everything. You're going to have extra attack, you're going to do a ton of damage, you're going to have a companion going with you, you have pseudo smites, you have healing. It's fantastic. Now, I think that Battlesmith, we could do something, but I don't think it's going to be as good as the Artillerist. If we go Battlesmith, you're forced to go more into Artificer than you are going into Druid, so it kind of shoehorns you into a certain direction as opposed to having flexibility. It really means we are going to need our intelligence to be our main focus, and the Druid's lack of AC is going to play out a lot more here because we're likely going to be more into the thick of combat and avoiding it less. There are certainly builds that could work here, but it's my job to pick the strongest route, I believe, for this multi-class, and I believe it's going to be Artillerist. So there we go. We're going the Artillerist, so now we need to decide which Druid goes well with the Artillerist, and frankly, the answer is all of them. First, we're going to get a spell like Entangle right out the gate. Powerful spell, and it synergizes very well with the cannons. Once we have someone restrained, our Ballista Cannon is going to get advantage on that attack. And because they're restrained, they're going to have disadvantage on the save against our Flamethrower. As for the Protector Cannon, we can create summons, and those summons get the benefits of the Protector Cannon and make every use of the Protector Cannon more efficient, which really gives us our answer. If the summons synergize extremely well with this build, then let's go Circle of the Shepherd. It matches it perfectly, and we're going to get to stack a lot of great benefits. So this makes me want to go Druid as our primary and Artificer as our secondary more. Reason number one is we're going to get more spell slots, which means more cannons. So even though we're going less into Artificer, by going Druid, we actually get to do our Artificer thing more often. Kind of interesting. Number two is the higher the spell slots we can get with Druid, the more interesting things we can do with our cannon. Once we're casting something like Bones of the Earth and mixing that with our cannons, things start to get really interesting really fast. I think that's really cool. Reason number three is while Druids make Artificer's armor significantly worse, Artificers make Druids armor better. With enhanced defense, we're going to get a +1 to our AC that we can throw into our shield, and we're going to have better AC than most Druids are going to have. That's awesome. Now that we have our game plan figured out, let's choose a lineage that matches it and really makes it shine. So what are our options? Here I want to put a little asterisk to say, please, I implore you, do a different lineage, do a different build here, and do something exciting. Do whatever calls to you, not just the most efficient thing, because we can. With a primary in Wisdom, a secondary in Dexterity needing to get it around 14, and a secondary in Intelligence probably around 14 as well, and then the rest into Constitution, your stats are going to be largely fine, so go with the character you want, or the lineage you want. But if we're talking power levels, I'm looking at a Tortle. Tortles give us a massive amount of AC basically for free. They're always good on Druids, but once we hit the enhanced defense, that AC with our shield is going to be just a 20 flat, which is pretty good considering we can't wear any decent armors. Additionally, it means we don't have to invest in Dexterity, so we can invest more in our Intelligence and Wisdom and Constitution. What's nice about this build is it works for standard array, point buy, or if you roll for stats and get something half decent. A lot of the future bad multi-class builds I do are going to be completely reliant on having point buy, or they're basically unplayable. In this case, we are able to play whether or not we get point buy. The next thing we need to decide is in what order are we going to be taking our levels. The first level is going to be most important because it decides whether we're going to get proficiency in Wisdom or whether we get proficiency in Constitution saving throws. Both have merit. Wisdom saves are just the most important saves in the game, but we are a concentration caster, so con saves are very important for us as well. I tend to lean Wisdom, but because Druids come out the gate with worse cantrips, worse AC, and it's going to take us longer to get the cannons, which is kind of the core of our gameplay, for those reasons I decided to go Artificer first. So there we go. We have Artillerist 3, Shepherd Druid 17. Now we're going to be moving into the level by level breakdown. Level 1 is we're just going to have our shield, we're going to have our armor, we're going to be casting Firebolt, we're going to be casting Fairy Fire, and we're going to be trying to survive until we get to bigger and better levels. Pretty common for level 1. Level 2 comes infusions. The first is one I already mentioned, Enhanced Arcane Focus. This is a need. This is going to allow us to cast both Druid and Artificer spells without any problems. And it's going to increase our damage output. It does everything amazing. Next up, we're going to have Enhanced Defense. We're going to throw it on our shield, give us a +1, so we have a 20 AC. Great. We're also going to take the Goggles of Night. We are a Tortle who doesn't have night vision, so this can help us in situations where we're doing a night raid or something of the sort. And we're also going to get the Spell Rot Tattoo with Find Familiar on it, so on those down days, we can cast Find Familiar and have it rolling around with us. At level 3, we get our cannons, so let's talk about them. First one is the Eldritch Ballista. The Eldritch Ballista is good with with Entangle, it's good with Fairy Fire, single target damage, and ranged combat. Cannon number 2 is the Flamethrower. This is also good with Entangle, it's good against small groups of enemies, and it's good for melee combat. Or C, the Protector Cannon, the insanely powerful health boosting ability that is the Protector Cannon. I have been preaching this for a while, but I feel like it is so slept on how insane the Protector Cannon is, so let's break it down. The first reason is its expense is extremely low. If you're not getting it for free, you're getting it for a first level spell, and the amount it does for you for that amount of cost is insane. How insane? Well, first off, if you cast it out of combat, it's completely viable because you can continually use its ability every action to give temporary HP to every single one of your teammates. You can always maximize it because you can roll 100 times, but eventually you're going to roll an 8, which is the maximum. So you have 8 plus your intelligence modifier, probably around 2. So you're looking at 10 temporary HP for every single individual of your party. And that scales the more party members you have. It scales the more familiars and animal companions you have, so you can be getting absurd amounts of HP. Let's say you have a 4-person party, one has a familiar and one has an animal companion. That's 60 extra temporary HP that you get for a single level spell slot. Now that alone would be insane. Look at Aid. For a second level spell slot, they're getting 15 HP out of it, a fourth of the amount for double the expense. But it doesn't end there. Because the cannon lasts for an hour, it's very likely you can get into a combat during that time, especially if you predict it, or if you casted it during combat. Either way, between every single hit your team takes, that takes away the temporary HP, you can now just use a bonus action and add it back. So you're just getting insane amounts of tankiness for your whole team with this one feature. It's incredible. Alright, enough of that. Level 4, we're going into Druid. Entangle is good. Use it with your cannons. Level 5. Here we're going to get Shepherd's Totems. Now Bear is just outshone by the Protector Cannon. Hawk is largely not going to be used, which leaves Unicorn, and Unicorn is fantastic. Unicorn represents one of the biggest burst heals for an entire team in the entire game. It's fantastic burst AoE healing, which is fairly rare in D&D. So I want you to think about how long the enemies are going to have to whittle down our team to get them to a point where we want to use our Unicorn Spirit. They're going to have to fight through all that temporary HP to multiple people that is gaining more every single turn, but eventually they're going to wear us down to the point where we're largely at mid-health across the board. Throw down your Unicorn Totem, blast off a healing spell, and your whole team's going to get that second wind, bringing them back from half HP to something far more healthy. And at this point, you might be thinking that we're completely designed as a support. We have this temporary HP and we do healing, but honestly, we're not. We're actually much more than that. Sure, we have support options, but we also have control options. We also have blasting options, and don't forget, we have summoning options, which brings us to level 3, where we get Summon Beast. Summon Beast is going to be our go-to, specifically Beast of the Land. The reason why is we want more bodies in between us and our enemies. We're going to give the temporary HP to our Beast, so it's going to be more tanky. Naturally want to group with our allies who want to get our temporary HP as well, so that they can all gang up on enemies. And we all know Beast of the Land does well in a pack. Level 7 brings Druid 4. This is our first ASI, and we're going to be bumping our Wisdom. If we're lucky enough to have an odd number on our Wisdom, we get to take Fey Touch, getting the fantastic Misty Step, and probably Silvery Barbs on top of that, a fantastic half feat. Level 8 brings us 3rd level spells, so now we can do something like Call Lightning plus Ballista, which is awesome for just long range blasty sustained damage. Or you can do something like Tidal Wave or Erupting Earth followed by your Flamethrower Cannon. There's just so many combinations you can do with the cannons and spells, and this really shines here. Now, I hear some of you already crying out, but conjure animals, but conjure animals. It's amazing, it's gonna give 8 extra creatures for your Protector Cannon to get 80 extra HP, and to that I say, don't. No, I'm dead ass serious. Don't do that. That spell is a travesty of balance, and we don't want to enhance that. And it's a terrible idea for balance at the table. It just makes the game way less fun. Level 9 brings Druid 6. It's going to allow us to make our summons even more tanky and have magical attack so we can get over resistances at all times. It's a fantastic buff for your single creation, your single conjured animal, right? Right? And honestly, from here, you guys are set. We're just gonna keep taking powerful spells, mixing them with our powerful cannons. So what are we? Well, we are a ridiculously flexible backline caster. We can make our team incredibly tanky. We can give them burst heals. We can cast control spells. We can cast blasting spells, and we can cast summoning spells. All of those mixed together with the cannons to do cool and interesting and powerful things. It's a lot of fun. So, did I do my job? Did I unite the ununitable? Well, hell yeah. These seeming rivals actually have some fantastic synergies between the two of them. The Artificer serves to enhance the Druid's defense and their resourceless combat potential. What I mean by that is, Druids have really short-ranged cantrips, so just by having Firebolt, it extends our range. The Druid, in turn, brings incredibly powerful spellcasting that synergizes with what the Artificer was wanting to do. On top of that, mixing the flavor of tech with the flavor of druidic magic or nature, you can end up getting some awesome storytelling potential and creative ways to build your character out. Mutations, weaponized flora, chemical weapons. These are just the first 3 ideas that came into my head of what could be an infinite amount. Overall, I'm pleased with this build and I'm looking forward to doing the next one. Will the third worst multiclass voted by you guys stand more of a challenge, or will I be able to make it absolutely fantastic? Let's find out in the next build. See you then.